Hello everyone, my name is Ian, and today I want to answer the question, how does Notion do product marketing? The reason I care about this question is because I'm a product marketer here in Berlin, Germany at a company called Choco, and oftentimes when I'm making resources and updating the website, I look to Notion as an example of best-in-class marketing. The long story short is I think their marketing is great, and today I want to break down how they do it. Now, this is the first video I've made about product marketing, but I plan to do more so in the future. So if you're interested, consider subscribing so then you get notified when I put out future videos about this topic. So to answer this question, I started my sort of investigation by looking into who's actually a part of the product marketing or the marketing department at Notion. And I found this interview with Camille Ricketts, who's the head of marketing at Notion. And here she shared a lot of really good insights. And so I want to play a little clip here of what she says in this interview on the Outliers podcast. And after that, I'm going to sort of break down what she says and apply it to what I can find on the Notion website and in the Notion app.
I think that the purpose of marketing in so many ways is to allow an individual, even when you are trying to sell something to a team, it is still changing the mind of an individual. So allowing an individual to feel the way they want to feel about themselves. That is something that I've come to over a lot of years of observing different marketing strategies and what has worked and what hasn't. And I think the essence really is telling a story. That is the first principle, telling a story. That helps somebody understand that your product, your service, your organization is going to help them achieve something that they've wanted to for a very long time, that is going to solve a pain point that they feel very deeply. But both of those things roll up to this concept of helping somebody feel the way that they want to feel about themselves. And so if I apply this or look through this lens at Notion's marketing strategy, the pillars of this are storytelling and distribution. So how do we tell a story that is going to make somebody understand the problem that Notion is going to help them solve, understand how Notion is going to help them solve that problem, and make sure that they are very capable at solving that problem themselves using Notion. So those are the three things that we want people to be able to walk away with, having interacted with our marketing materials and the stories that we tell. And so stuff that helps with this, if you're looking for specific assets, are blog posts that are mostly about the problem space that you're solving or that your product is solving, not even about your product itself, but just what are the contours and the costs of the problem that you are aimed at. Customer stories, which basically demonstrate here's how Notion solves your problem. You are like us. We are a brand that you admire. Here is what we are doing with the product. Here is what you could be doing with the product. And then lastly, the making your audience feel very capable of using your product to, in fact, achieve their goals. That's a lot of user education. And that's, I think, a variety of storytelling that goes into more depth and detail about exactly what tactics somebody can use in your product to make progress that's meaningful to them. So those are sort of some examples of the storytelling side of things. And then the distribution side, that's where I think a lot of the growth stuff that has become much more prominent over the last few years comes in, where you're taking the stories that you have now developed and you are figuring out how to meet your audience where they are and customize each of these messages to the specific people that you are talking to or trying to reach. So I think most companies, when it comes to stages of development, need to start with the storytelling acumen and then essentially hook that up to the piping of distribution in a way that is very smart and very personalized in its approach to your greater audience.
Alrighty, so now I want to apply that sort of model that Camille talked about for us to the marketing materials that we find on Notion's website and in their app. As you can see, I'm sort of on their website right now. And maybe the easiest thing to point out first is sort of these distribution channels or the ways that Notion actually reaches their audience. And so the way I see it, we have these 4 channels. We have the website, we have YouTube, we have the in-app experience in that bottom right help corner, and then we also have email. So those were the 4. And now I'm going to sort of walk through each of them and show how it is like the pipeline of distribution. And then later I'm going to talk about the messaging and how these 2 things sort of come and fit together. So starting first from the website, here I'm on the main site right here, and we can look into the product section. We see home, a template gallery, customer stories, and solutions. And this is actually broken down by persona. You see enterprise, small business, personal, and by team function even more specifically. And so this is all the use cases for each persona. So you could imagine yourself going here, you're like, oh, I'm personal, I want to organize my life better. You click on personal, and then you get this targeted sort of page just for you. In the resources, we have the blog, the guides and tutorials. And these hold a lot of content that we also see linked in other places, like in the emails. So this is where a lot of things come together with the download. It's evident there. And then the pricing as well, obviously something people want to figure out right as soon as they get to the website. Now, diving more deeply into the blog is my first sort of focus here. You can see we have like a whole bunch of long form content. We have stuff from the marketing team, but we also see like contributions from people in different parts of the company. To sort of recap what's happening here, we see sort of a lot of the personas being targeted in different set parts of this long form content. So the Startup's Guide to Knowledge Management, the Best Student and Teacher Templates, we see sort of the personas coming through with each one of these pieces of long form content. And the next sort of platform or distribution channel I want to jump into is their YouTube channel. YouTube is an important one for them because it's sort of a content hub that links together a lot of the resources that they link to in other places. And so by that, I mean they host videos on YouTube, tutorial videos, and then they link to them in long form content on the blog, they link to them in the emails. And so by that, it's sort of a base level piece of a content or of media that then is linked by everywhere else. And the first thing that sort of jumps out to me when I look at this channel is I see how these templates that they use are really nice, and they're all obviously in the Notion brand. And beyond being just templates, like when you look into like this, what is Notion video? Sorry for that ad.
Or even run an entire we all crave clarity and organization.
Yeah. So basically what we're basically seeing is sort of a template or something that someone in-house who's dedicated to this or an agency has done where they're showing the product and walking through with a voiceover. And this is really nice. And it's part of sort of a larger playlist that they have on here, this New to Notion Start Here, where they're going through all these sort of tips and tricks that have this same template. And here again, we can see this targeting by personas. We have Notion for product managers, Notion for HR people, Notion for engineers, and then also sort of functionally like from a feature perspective, writing and editing basics, creating a page. So the 2 sort of types of things you might search for, these Notion for personas, these would be targeted, in that part of the website we saw earlier. This more creating a page would be in sort of the FAQ or support world of Notion. And further down this page, you can see they have they have a throwback to their conference. They have Spotted on YouTube where user generated content. Now this is awesome because it's obviously people doing marketing for them and increasing the reach of Notion through their own time, just sort of like what I'm doing right now. And then here we have sort of more brand related content, tools and craft. That's the sort of name of the blog as well. And we see them really dive deep into the history of computing and really sort of live out their brand identity here on the page. So that was a little deep dive sort of into what they're doing in terms of on the YouTube channel. To jump next to their actually what Notion looks like, I'll show you sort of my Notion, how I use Notion. This is my life dashboard that I've talked about in different videos. And you can see in the right-hand corner, they have this little thing you can click on. It says help, feedback, and keyboard shortcuts. And so when you click on it, you can see you have access to help and the support guide. You can send us a message, Notion basics. And when you go to help and support, it'll take you back to what we saw earlier, on the website. If you click here, it'll take you to their support channel where they use intercom to sort of reply to requests. And then we have this sort of Notion basics. And when you click on that, it'll come up with this sort of self-service program you could take through to learn Notion. And here you can see, again, this YouTube content resurfacing in the context of the support in-app. And the last sort of channel that I'll look into here is the Notion emails that they send out. And here you can, if I jump to my email now, I'll show you one that they sent out recently. This was, I guess it was on August 19th, but this is from the CEO, it is a what's new email. And so here you can see the use of these cool GIFs where they talk about what's new with Notion. This reinforces that they're doing things, that they're changing to make their product better for user requests. It's also comes across in a very personal way. Their tone of voice is sort of conversational. And if you like clumsy Lego metaphors, it's as much as we do, why don't we join the team? This is sort of self-reflective. It's not being a brand, it's being a person. It's warmly from the CEO. You can see the sort of personal tone as well as all these well-made GIFs to sort of show what's changing about the functionality. So I actually did a little experiment to test their support, and I reached out to support. Well, I also had a question as well, but I reached out to their support to see if I could find how it is that they make their GIFs. Because if you make GIFs yourself, there's always this problem with the file size of GIFs and how it is you can include them in emails without it taking too long to load and the user not actually sort of seeing anything. And I think they do a really good job of it. And so I asked their support function, what does David from product marketing use to make the product marketing GIFs? And they responded that he actually uses a tool called ScreenFlow. And so I just want to shout out to their support team that they actually figured out this request and got back to me about it. It really shows dedication to the customers and the questions. And so a shout out to Norman who actually responded to my request there. So now that I've talked about the distribution channels, I want to step back and look at the messaging, this second component of her overall marketing framework. And the thing she says about messaging is she wants to get across the idea that you're helping someone do something that they've wanted to do for a very long time. And I just want to show how this sort of comes to life for one of their user personas. And by this, I'm going to look into the sort of personal use. Like I use Notion myself, I would be a personal user of Notion in their personas. And so as I click here onto the website, I see Notion for everyone. I go down, see how Notion works for people like you. And what I really just want to show is how it's using case studies to get across this idea of helping you do something that you've wanted to for a very long time. So first we see taking notes with Cece. Next, if we go down, we see getting organized with Amira. We see tracking tasks with Swapna. So the long story short here is every time that you have a marketing message, you're tying it with a use case that can help someone see how Notion would actually help them do the thing. And as we think about how this sort of maps onto their product marketing org, generally, we would imagine or expect to see there would be people within their product marketing department that would be focused on these different customer segments. And if we look on their jobs page, we can see they have a job listing for someone who does just this, an enterprise product marketing manager. And this would be someone who is directly focused at this enterprise persona. And what it would allow them to do as a product marketing department is have a content plan for each of these personas. And by doing that, by having that, you can imagine an overall a content powerhouse where every piece of content is directly targeted towards, building the ability for their users to do what they wanted to do for a very long time based on their background and what they're really looking to get from Notion. To me, it's sort of an example of a more advanced or developed product marketing or marketing org at a tech company. And so it's one that I should learn from. I'm currently the only product marketer in my team, but as our company and as our department grows, we would likely see sort of specialization in this same way. So let's wrap this whole thing up. This whole video has been about creating an effective product marketing strategy, one that combines the distribution channels with a really targeted messaging that keeps personas in mind. If you work at Notion and you have something else to say about this, please reach out and let's do a follow-up episode. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next video.